Paul, did everyone train and is everyone good to go?
Yeah, everyone's trained and everyone's good to go, yeah.
That obviously includes Caelan. Can you just speak a bit about the balance in terms of putting a guy like that in after such a serious long layoff, or do you need to be a bit cautious?
Yeah, he's been through a very good return to play period now, and he's had a good few weeks. There's been very little, minding of him or anything like that, or there hasn't been any. So, there's one train of thought says you start a guy like that because he could come on after a minute anyway, and there's another train of thought says you bring him off the bench. So, listen, we'll see. But he's fine. He's trained really well. He feels really good. That he's shown no ill effects whatsoever.
What's your sense since you've come into camp in terms of getting up to the pitch immediately in terms of what awaits on Saturday against a team coming off the back of the Rugby Championship?
Yeah, well, it's definitely a challenge, and that's why we're over a little bit early. It allowed us to, I suppose, get over the jet lag or get over most of the jet lag and have two very good, very kind of fast training sessions with a good bit of contact in them and get lads up to speed. And it's certainly a challenge. It's certainly a challenge, but I suppose the sessions we've put in are designed to help the guys on that journey.
Paul, in terms of the Rugby Championship, the All Blacks, I think it was 14 tries off the line-out. What have you seen of their set piece, and what do you need to do on Saturday to kind of blunt that threat a bit?
Well, most tries come from line-outs. You can't kick to the corner and take a scrum or whatever it is. So most tries come from line-outs. You're trying to get after some of their ball in the air, and you're trying to give yourself a good chance on the floor if you don't get after it in the air, So they have a very good line-out. They always have done. They use it to launch. We see it. Obviously, Andrew Goodman would have worked with the Crusaders, would have worked with Scott Robertson. We know how he likes to, I suppose, attack off scrum launch and off line-out launch, and they're very good at it. They've good variation. They've a lot of, I suppose, players that can exploit space. Even we were just looking at them attacking off a simple maul during the week where they attacked down the short side against Australia. They've Sevilla at the back of the maul doing a great job. So, it's a challenge. It's about trying to make them win the ball sometimes where you want them to win the ball and trying to get after them within the first three phases. But it's a big challenge in the game for us.
Well, the priority seems like ages ago, the tour in the summer. What did you, when you got a chance to reflect, what did you most take away from that experience personally?
The big thing is just, as an assistant coach, you're always looking for more time because you wanna cover off all your bits and pieces. But when you're probably a head coach, you're probably looking at the bigger picture and you're looking at the brain capacity of the players. So you're always, I suppose, taking time. I was the kind of coach taking time away from the assistant coaches where I was used to be, and I'm back being the assistant coach now, looking for more time. So that's the biggest learning for me in it, and probably a little bit of a better understanding of what a player goes through in the whole in a week. I suppose when you're a line-out coach or a forwards coach or whatever, you just have to be cognizant of all the information that's gone into a player, be it, defence, be it attack, be it, they might have an injury and there's a physio that feels that half an hour with them is really important, and some of them might have a bit of college going on as well. So, it's something I think we managed quite well in the summer. It was the end of a year as well. We're just trying to manage the players, I suppose, physical load, but also their mental load. And I think that's something Andy does well with us as assistant coaches. He constantly challenge you on time and your messages and the length of it and how many are in it. And I suppose I found myself doing that as well during the summer, and I enjoyed that part of it. I enjoyed doing that with the assistant coaches, particularly because I knew the lads so well. We were able to challenge each other and not necessarily argue a little bit, but we were able to discuss it a little bit. And so that was probably the biggest learning for me and the biggest, I suppose, understanding I bring into my role as an assistant coach now.
Would it give you taste it all now that you've had it up? Maybe a desire to be a head coach yourself one day? Or are you quite happy to go back into the trenches?
I'm very happy in the trenches. I just feel like I'm learning all the time and still have so much to learn, you know. I suppose when sometimes the way Simon might put together a week when he was coach, or the way Andy might put together a week, you know, sometimes I wouldn't see it that way yet. So, you know, I still feel I'm learning in that regard. And I think as an assistant coach, there's so many experiences you can have that can help you if you ever want to be a head coach, and I still feel I'm very much on that journey. So it's great experience for me to be able to go and do it for a little while and then duck back into what I'm more used to as well.
No. Is it completely different in terms of in-game when you're the head coach compared to your role where you're...
Yeah, it is. I suppose you're thinking about substitutions, and you're probably the one giving down the main messages, whereas when you're assistant coach, you're not giving down the main messages. They're probably more specific to you know, your area, and you're probably trying to reduce as many as possible, because you know there's a defence coach has to give something down maybe, and there's other bits and pieces. So it's a bit different in that regard, and just trying to be... I enjoyed that part of it actually during the game, you know, because I suppose you have assistant coaches feeding into you what they see, and you're trying to pick and choose what you want the players to hear, because they can't take on a massive amount of information during the game either. So when you pick something, you need to try and make it count. And I enjoyed that part of it. I enjoyed the Portugal game obviously was really... I was delighted with the way the players played, and the way they, even more so the way they played and finished the game in the second half, having had a big lead. But I was really thrilled with the way the guys played against Georgia, given that we were trying to prepare all the time for dry, warm weather, and we had to make a big shift on the day of the game. So the way the boys were very happy to completely change game plan and execute something differently so quickly, so diligently, was really enjoyable.
Last one on that tour, obviously it's a very different Ireland squad, much younger, and some of the guys are here now, and maybe will play a big role in November, but others aren't. Do you think there are lots more in that bracket though, ready to take that next step, or close to?
Yeah, I do. I think, you know, even you see it on the emergent tours, some of the guys that I always think of Cathal Ford on the first emergent tour that we went on. You know, he's obviously a really established player now, and is a fantastic rugby player, but at the time we knew very little about him. You know, I knew his name, I knew he was in Connacht, but I knew very little about him. And after one training session, I remember Mike Catt saying, "This guy has it." So, you know, we've a lot of players in the system that just need a chance. You know, they can't always get the chance with the full Irish team, so trying to have these emergent tours, trying to have as many international games as we can, A games, is really important for us, because when they do get a chance, or they do get into camp with us to train, you know, we try to always bring some extras in to train with us, to watch, to train, to see how we do things, to see, so that they get to see how a seasoned international player prepares. It always brings them on, and it brings us on in terms of our confidence in that player as well. So the more we get to coach them and experience them, and they get to experience us, the better it is for our depth.
Well, the team hit an incredible level with 22, 23, and obviously you're building back up to another tournament in 2 years' time, and people are starting to talk about it a little bit. But where do you think you are as performance-wise, based on your last year, I guess, and what you're seeing in training, compared to that highest level that you were able to get?
Probably a little bit inconsistent. Like, you know, we had a really good start to the Six Nations. You know, that English game was a really tough game. We weathered the storm and came back, and that's a good English team, and we came back and beat them well. Same away from Scotland, we played really well, and after that we were probably a little bit inconsistent. In the Welsh game there was some really good bits of play, really good start against France, and then we were probably a little bit inconsistent after that, and that's it's frustrating for us as coaches in terms of what we're doing. It's probably frustrating for the lads as well. I think that's probably was a hallmark of that good period of form. It was a real consistency to how we played and how we delivered our game, and that's the challenge for us as players. As the squad evolves bit by bit, that's the challenge for us, is to get back to that.
Do you feel that so many people having that lines experience, a positive lines experience during the summer, you and your group having a positive experience, now bringing it all back together with Andy back and a kind of singular focus? There's no lines in the horizon. It's all towards the Ireland goals. Do you think that is going to be a good way of kind of bringing it all back together and get that consistency?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I never feel that our lads are trying to get picked for the Lions or are focused on the Lions. They all know that if Ireland wins, it gives them a better chance of getting picked. And we don't, we probably are trying to develop squad depth the same as anyone else, but we probably, we're trying to win now and in the future, and that's really important for us. We're trying to, I suppose, evolve rather than make big changes. And, that's what the Emergent Tour gives us. That's what the tour in the summer gives us. That's what bringing guys into camp as much as possible. It's a pity that Edwin Adogbo and Brian Gleeson were injured. Edwin in particular, we've been trying to get in for a while. Brian was in with us during the summer. We're always trying to figure out ways to build depth, looking forward to the World Cup, but also, trying to maintain what we stand for as much as possible.
In terms of the pack leadership that Peter would have brought, not necessarily as a role, but just he's so much experience and line out nous that he had for over so long. Do you feel like that void is going to be? Are you confident that the lads that are there can fill what he left behind?
Yeah, they have to. Like, there's guys growing into the roles now, the likes of Dan Sheehan, you would have seen him captaining on the lines. There's guys, I suppose, assuming that kind of mantle where, I think Pete's strength was he was able to do the right things at the right time. There was an intuition there that comes from being a good rugby player and probably comes from experience and being really well coached by all these different coaches that he's had over the years. There's just an experience there that you just can't get until you've had it, And but I think you look at Ryan Baird or you look at Cian Prendergast captaining in Connacht. They're accumulating a lot of experience now. I know that Cian is really enjoying his time with Stuart Lancaster. Ryan Baird has had his ups and downs trying to get picked in Leinster. He really finished well last season and was excellent for us in the summer. So for sure we've lost a bit of experience, but there's a group of guys, I suppose, coming through who have a different type of experience, and it's not necessarily all with Ireland either. It's with their provinces, the ups and downs they're going through, the battles they're having to try and get picked. So it all adds to our environment.
What's the key for Ryan nailing it? Because we can all see the athlete and we've all seen the performances when it goes right for him, but it feels like he's struggled to have the full confidence of coaches over the years, and he's been in and out a little bit. He's had big opportunities and then he's been out of the team.
Yeah, listen, I suppose Pete has been there as well at number 6, and we actually haven't had a lot of injuries in our back row, because we've had some brilliant players in camp that in another era, particularly in the back row, I think would have had a lot of caps. I was doing a bit of work with Nick Timoney down below there. He's an excellent player. Cian Prendergast is, I'd say patiently waiting, maybe not so patient at times. He's really eager to play. Jack Conan at times. So we haven't had a lot of injuries in that back row. And Pete has played a big leadership role for us. So, he's moved on now, and that leaves a void which other guys have to go and take, and they have to go and take it and pick themselves.
Ollie, never before has Ireland supplied so many players to a Lions tour. Never has a Lions tour gone on so late in the season. Therefore, never has an Irish team had so little time to actually get its players on the pitch in readiness for a November window. Is that particularly challenging for you as a coach? Does it feel like, Christ, we've really been dealt a tough hand here, or is there another way you look at it in terms of maybe freshness is a virtue?
Yeah, no, it is challenging, but it is what it is. We wanted more fixtures. We want more fixtures. We want to get as much time with the players as we can. We want big games for the players. This November is a great opportunity for us to give game time in big games to players. So it's not ideal, But you know, I think our player of the tour down in New Zealand in 2022 was Tyke Byrne. He'd come off the back of a considerable injury break. So we've a few guys that have plenty of game times under their belt. We've a few guys that, you know, the last games they played were highly competitive, tough games. They got a break. They were injury free. They played in the summer. So, you know, they're a lot further down the track than people might believe. So, you know, that was, as I said, that's why we came over early. We've had, you know, 2 really good fast sessions. We've one more fast session to get under our belt. So, you know, I think we'll be in a good place come Saturday. It's not perfect, but you know, getting an extra fixture was never going to be perfect in such a busy year. But it is what it is.
Tyke Byrne's performance at Croke Park is a good kind of standard benchmark for all the other players as well, isn't it? Sure, you enjoyed it, didn't you?
Yeah, he was excellent. You know, he's such a smart rugby player in terms of the decisions he makes. You know, he I suppose he doesn't. It looks like he doesn't move as quick as other guys, but he actually is quite fast off the mark, and he's a little bit like Anthony Foley. He's a little bit ahead of the game all the time, and I think that's been his trademark over the last few years. And it was brilliant to see him, you know, coming back in his first game, and he's able to, you know, a little bit maybe like Sean O'Brien. I remember when I played with Sean O'Brien, he'd come back after a 3 or 4 month hip injury where he wouldn't have ran, you know, he wouldn't have ran more than 5 or 6K, and he'd come back and he'd be the best player in the field because he just was constantly ahead of the game because of the habits he had. And Tyke Byrne is a little bit like that, so it was brilliant to see him play so well last week.